place yourself into the ritual circle outside before this and this and this and this and this. Durgsi mulks yezizum ur tugzu ebnum go alern lu oats durgas ze mulks yezizum ar tugzav Ibnum Gul Il Irn Lu Oats Durgzazeh Mox Yez Yezom Tugzudebnum Gul Il Irn La Ots. Any particular impression with the chant or any of that?
What came into my mind is, I don't know if it was a TV show or a video. Where Are They Now? Everything reminded me of a recent experience. Traveling, turning dark, and then the light leaves and it's replaced, and it travels on through them, and follows a dark arrow that emits the energetic waves. And there's like a circular shape going through that to a gate. So it reminds me of that TV show, Where Are They Now?
And this seasonal is the crossing into the water quadrant of the year. It's also known as the season of hate, formerly the season of love, the season of hope before that. And if you start things with the Celtic New Year, Samhain in November, there's the season of fear. And so you also have the three trains, the train of sleep and all that. But the is what you start with. So this would be, I guess, the one of mirth. Oh, I don't remember that. I should look that up. But three. So one thing that kind of can come through as a repeated theme of this seasonal is the whole maze thing. And a common thing in mazes is the 4 in, 3 out sort of, or the 4 and the 3 bit to it. So that's part of what came through with the symbol. We have the symbol of transformation. The these are these are shaped according to the they're approximately 4-sided shapes here, and that's the platonic solid of fire.
This shape is kind of interesting. It's I guess you could say 4-sided, but one of the sides raises up.
I thought I had the Okay, platonic solids, because I had a dream.
Mhm.
So fire would be 4 sides, and earth would be 6 sides. 8 sides would be air, which also happens to be the shape of this sodalite. And sodalite, it's approximately silver. But before we got that, we got sorrow. The 3 trains were okay. That wasn't quite loading quick enough, but so sodalite is a symbol of cosmic beauty. We have 8 points here. So we have 8 points, but it's like 2 tetrahedrons interlaced, the sodalite. Sodalite is one of the minerals that's present to produce lapis lazuli. It's a symbol of the never forgotten. Transformation, alignment, cosmic function, a bunch of stuff.
I really like the lapis lazuli. I'm drawn to that.
And so the 3 noble strains. Okay. So pain, joy, fatigue. So weeping, happiness, sleep. So sleep starts the year, and then you rise out of that, you're happy, and then the season of war and all that starts, and you're kind of upset about that naturally. Are some loss associated with that? Hold on, let me switch back there. But as one remembers, we are getting into the Seshu myth, and I'm bouncing some of this off of the Court of Ahaz Sword of Undeath book. And some other, the cranberry candle is related to, they thought that cranes liked it. So that was part of the naming of it. And it's a dark quarter sort of thing, but it also relates to the fire agate. And so the crystal eye was something that I kept reading in a book that I was reading, and they had all this stuff about beast and stuff like this. It was a fictional book, but so it kind of relates to that, because well, I mean, one can relate it to that. For me, I just picked something red. That was my main motivation here. The other 8 candles, so the other 8 flames involved was, the fruit of the heart and the passion and the drive, and what one's tempted towards. The big harvest seasons come about. You have Lunasa, Madron, and Samhain. And for some reason, rather than rejoicing in the abundance, people fight over it because they wanted more for the winter season, but it cost overall. So rather than there being enough to go around, but such is what keeps happening, right? All throughout history, there's been abundance, but people have fought over it and this or ruined it somehow.
Many times at the wrong time.
But it's something that the outer world's ready to receive.
It's no time is good time, but yeah.
And one's got spiritual merit and stuff. Okay, so the orange quartz,
That's really pretty. This is kind of orange.
known as tangerine quartz. People like to have different names. If you ever get crystals, you could end up with 5 different names for the same type of crystal and get different stones. for that way. So it's good to be aware of some of that. But
Very
quartz is
true.
thought to be something about vitalization, and it's a stone of memory, because they use that in computer chips and stuff, but it's always been thought of in those terms even before that.
Mm-hmm.
And agate, this is sort of a bloodstone. Some people are going to be like, oh, a bloodstone has to be jasper. It's like, first of all, no, it has to be a little red spot on another stone. So basically the same type of stone, but the little ones like reddish or something. 12 and 14 related stuff. We have priesthood, stability, gathering. There's more to it, but I'm not going to do everything in here. Silver is a mirror of the soul. I'm not sure. Some of what I have is real silver, some of it's not. But it's how others see us is an important thing to consider. And the symbol being the Merkaba for the sodalite. Merkaba it's a vehicle. So not even what you're using mystically, it's so all these visualizations and all this other stuff, it's a vehicle, it's not the real thing. And this also is a similar symbol with the 6, the interlacing, marked off on its points. Breaking up of a 4-part formula into 6 is an interesting inclusion. But when you say those pentagrams, atah, babor, laulam, alman, it's you're in like everything else, you're initially saying it in reference to yourself and bringing all that out. And I didn't finish saying the platonic solids. So 12 sides for spirit and 20 sides for water. And so the piece that I made up for this seasonal, into the groves comes the floods. We meander through the maze of leaves in our retreat from the harvest of berries, are approaching the building of transformation. Some attack with hate and would be pillaging with this weapon. The real world is a means, and that is what we are upon. Emerge as the strange things happen universally. Pervading upon you is the revolving of ages beyond your connections of astrology. Turtle, tortoise, hare, and rabbit become tawny in their peaks innumerably. The multiverse is the sheath of qualities, but beyond the causal remains the essence, a causally. From the 11 wild ones is destruction, and from that comes new creativity. 5, 7, 10, 1,000 are 5,000 headed. Each is crowned in eternity. With the humans is similarity. Hail beyond celebration, our observance. Uncoil and coil our consciousness. Hail to beautification of action. We're receiving beyond summoning by verses. We keep some of the instruction and confidence and protect the sacred places with more than curses. Bestow the secret conversations. Without our being at all remiss, We go slithering into the worldly, but of our power, we are spiritually directing, manifesting and unmanifest. We are of the beings that remain. And this would be for the nearest sunset to 2:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1:21 Central, 12:21 Mountain, 11:21 Pacific Daylight Time on Monday, the 7th of August in 2023. And as said before, with the chant in Lizavuma, we have the path, Ergsaze, Tug, so the Epidome would be the beast, Mulks and Elarin would be the snake and the serpent. I think Mulks is Yizolm is the dove, and everything can be rendered into a number, so maybe some of it is just, the number, but I'll find out what some of that means later. But what's your impression of this poem this time?
When you were reading the poem, I wrote, the inner comes out. That is what the within is. It is needed for certain operations. The within is what we are sent with and what we are as. And then it came to me what we do with it, what we do with it, what we do with it.
Just like the mood ring. The mood ring is my seasonal ring for this, and it's sort of along the lines of, like in Scientology, they have those e-meter readers, and it's like you really don't read the spirit through devices or whatever. But one of the things that happens is that you read reactions, and you can do something about the reactions that you have or that others have.
Mm-hmm.
And so Genesis 3:1-15, decided to do the whole chapter because that fits that way.
Okay.
Now the serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild beasts that the Lord God had made. Now, what do they mean by Lord God? Okay. Yahweh Elohim, which none of that translates as Lord, but we want to be specific. So increasing existence and divinity. Okay. He said to the woman, did God really say you shall not eat any tree of the garden? The woman replied to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the other trees of the garden. It is only about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, you shall not eat of it or touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you are not going to die, but God knows as soon as you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like a divine being who knows good or bad. Well, the calf doesn't mean like. It means you'll be tamed. It could mean you'll be tamed by good and bad. So they could be offering an improvement in the character. And they're like, oh, I want to improve my character. When the woman saw that the tree was good for eating and a delight to the eyes, and the tree was desirable as a source of wisdom, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave some to her husband, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they perceived that they were naked, and they sewed together fig leaves and made themselves loincloths. And that became the standard modesty for humans, I guess, as you cover from the navel to the knees. But they heard the sound of the Lord God moving in the garden at the breeze time of the day, and the man and his wife hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. The Lord God called out to the man and said to him, where are you? He replied, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Then he asked, who told you that you were naked? Did you eat of the tree from which I had forbidden you to eat? And remember, the word Yahweh is only one letter added in front to the name of the woman. So Hawa is the wife, and Yahweh is the god. Who told you that you were naked, eat of the tree from which I forbid you? The man said, yes. The woman you put at my side, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And the Lord God said to the woman, now remember how I pointed out how specific names were being used when they said God. So we're still on the Yahweh Elohim bit.
Okay.
And rather than acting like, oh, they must have been different authors, and it's like, yeah, there were different authors, but that's not quite the thing, is they have different meanings implied in using different names, like El Shaddai and all that. The Lord God said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman replied, the serpent duped me and I ate. But she already knew, they all already knew, he was there. Then the Lord God said to the serpent, because you did this, more cursed shall you be than all the cattle and all the wild beasts. On your belly you shall crawl, and dirt you shall eat. All the days of your life I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. They shall strike at your head, and you shall strike at their heel. And to the woman he said, I will make most severe your pangs in childbearing. In pain he shall bear children, yet your urge shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. To Adam he said, because you did as your wife said, and ate of the tree about which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed be the ground because of you. By toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it sprout for you, but your food shall be the grasses of the field. By the sweat of your brow shall you get bread to eat, until you return to the ground, for from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. The man named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. So HWH would be existence. Oh, this is a similar. Okay, she's named Chua. So that's not the same thing. Chua. And the Lord God made garments of 15. I went reading further than I thought. I've been reading the whole thing. So I really stopped here, the strike at the heel part.
Okay.
And for a translation of the two verses that we're having, the Devi Stuti, verse 6, when you are pleased, you destroy all infirmities, and when you are displeased, you frustrate all desires. No calamity or disease befalls those who take refuge in you. Invariably, you become a refuge to others. And the third word is sesham, and I guess we'll get into more of that there. And the Anantam Vasukim Sesham mantra.
Mm-hmm.
Ananta Vasuke Sesha Padmana Bara Kambala Shankha Pala Dre Threshtra Dakshaka and Kalia are the names of the 9 great serpents. Whoever recites this hymn in prayer daily in the evening, particularly in the mornings, their fears are all destroyed and they emerge victorious in endeavors. And the air quality is a bit low, so I might have been more spicy out with my thing. So any thought as I'm looking up the next passage here?
And sticking with me about how the different meanings are applied to the different names. Literally one letter can be can change an entire meaning. So that's something to look deep into. Look a little bit deeper into that. For me, out of my notes here.
And number 21, 6-9 is not so weird in the church context where you see all these statues of Jesus or whatever in churches, or even the ones that you don't, because you tend to not take don't make graven images thing seriously. But in
Right.
Numbers 21, 6-9, we get, and, oh, let me look up the word. Okay.
Some of the
Establishing, established is Yahweh. Okay. And established sent seraph serpents against the people. They bit the people, and many of the Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord to take away the serpents from us." And Moses interceded for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, "Make a seraph figure and mount on it the standard. And if anyone who is bitten looks at it, he shall recover." Moses made a copper serpent and mounted it on a standard. And when anyone was bitten by a serpent, he would look at the copper serpent and recover. Now, I did look up some of this when I was doing my series on the Tanakh. Well, on the Torah, the Haftorah, the Megillah, and you find out that a lot of these things have technological meaning to it. So it talks about making whenever it talks about making a statue, there's some sort of technological thing to it. But just like in the 10th Kanda of the Atharva Veda, there's the good snake, there's the bad snake, there's a snake that's for that if you're a right, or if you're being used for or if you're using rightly or whatever. So the context of snake isn't always in a bad sense.
Right.
But I mean, it's negative, obviously, if ultimate divinity itself is sending snakes against you. That's definitely not something that you want, right? But the
definitely not.
But one of the things about the Seshu myth is it's beyond. You're beyond the. It operates this world, but it's sort of beyond it at the same time. You know what I mean? Trying to say.
Yes.
It's a survivor in between. And as I said in the chants, you put yourself in the company of those ones. Deuteronomy 8:15, we have, "Who led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its seraph serpents and scorpions, a parched land with no water in it, who brought forth water for you from the flinty rock." And of course, this is the season where the floods, in India and some other places where the floods tend to come. So I've always, not only because it's the water quadrant, but other things. I think I may have mentioned, but so to put the mother, father, child, daughter, son bit into the seasons, maybe we can say that the mother is what you call the fall or the cooling quarter. Before that, you had the father in the bright quarter. You have the son in the warming quarter, and you have the daughter in the dark quarter of the year. And what was I going to say from what we had yesterday? So one of the things, like, one's keeping some of these secrets, and I'm going to go through the last verses quickly, but so there's a limited in revealing the plan, revealing the sacred thing, and you don't want to put things that you would consider sacred or use whatever towards just random use. So that's why some of these cultures were very careful about letting people who weren't part of the ritual order overhearing things. But what we need to do, and we do this by our real actions and aligning our devatas, our 9 gates with the spiritual forces, is we pull down forces and we try to create a real personality in ourselves. And I'm kind of jumbling and putting something together, but if you don't say something, if it's not coming through clear enough.
Oh, it's fine.
And so through the qualities, we develop an essence. And so either the essence or the personality that we direct becomes something that we can feed on ourselves. And one of the practices would be to copy the symbols again and again. And some people look at these mystical orders and say, well, some people are not going to cut it. But the problem, the thing about that is that if some people aren't going to cut it, that still means that, you know, part of the work is done. So for those who make it, it's made their job easier. So Amos 9:3, if they hide on top of Carmel, there I will search out and seize them, and if they conceal themselves from my sight at the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent to bite them. The serpent kind of comes through as something of the unconscious, doesn't it? But as I pointed out, like with the verse about unicorns elsewhere, because people are like, "What what those cute horse things?" It's like, no, there was the physical force that the fear was from the lion, and the spiritual force was the unicorn. Raum and Duskias in the Goetia would be where a person would be looking. And okay, so the I'm looking for, we got Job 26:13. I think that's out of, yeah. The order is different between the tonic and the Bible, and they do some of this on purpose for effect. And that's something that you could learn right there. That's very important, is to rearranging things or going over things in different orders for effect. And that even includes, you know, this chapter or whatever. Not that you're, you know, deceitfully like mixing up the book per se, but you know,
kind of turning it into
26:13. Okay, by the wind the heavens were calmed, his hand pierced the elusive serpent. I had a vision in a cave, and someone else had the vision too. And it's like there was a thing, and you could call it a serpent, and we both stuck our hand through it. Now we don't think we were hurting it, or anything like that, but you know, that's one of the things. And 2 Kings. So in what sense was it pierced? Like as you know, in the Temple of Blood myth, they talk about the 1,000 points of light bouncing it off the Mothers of Darkness castle stuff that was starting to come out in the 90s. It may have been starting to come out before, but it became easy enough to find out about it before that, at that point. And one of their things is the 1,000 points of light. Okay, 1 Kings 18:4, when Jezebel, actually it's Azbal from Azbal, which comes out differently because Jezebel would mean virgin of the Lord, but Azbal would be whorish, worse than nothing individual, or whorish of the whore of the Lord or something. But if you have the in it, but when she was killing off the prophets of the Lord, again, we're using Yahweh here, not Adoni. Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them, 50 to a cave, and provided them with food and drink. One of the things that's interesting to look at is why certain numbers and why the breaking up of them into certain numbers. Like there was a Vedic hymn that I was reading in the Atharva Veda. I don't remember which one it was, which Khanda or which hymn it was, but there was this thing about the 720 to the side. And so I've wondered about that. Why these numbers?
Right. Yeah.
And
numbers tell a story. Give insight.
And Isaiah 6:2-8. Okay, so before the most famous passage in most of the Bible, is seraphs stood in attendance with him, on him. Each of them had 6 wings, and he covered his face. With 2 he covered his legs, and with 2 he would fly. And one of the things about some of these forms is it's just the best way we can describe it. It's like, I don't know if you, I shared with you one of my Baphomet visions, and one of my visions of the Baphomet was, it's just the way they describe it is really just the best you can do. And yes, it comes off with a female element, and it turns out Baphomet and Sophia and all that were originally thought of as female. It wasn't Eliphas Levi's male goat figure and whatnot.
Right.
But I didn't
Right.
realize that at the time. I just had the vision. And sometimes things that you can research and find later, you'll find out. Okay, then I heard the voice of my Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? He will go for us." And he said, "Here I am, send me." And that's been twisted about in what I was raised with. I was raised LDS, and we made a big deal about that passage. Okay, 14:27. For the Lord of hosts, Tizbaut is kind of like Ganesh, has planned. Yachts is kind of like a tree. Who then can foil it? It is his arm that is poised, and who can stay it? So some of this, you don't make it out in the English, but it has meanings related to snake in some of it. 36. The beasts of the Negeb, pronouncement, through a land of distress and hardship, of lion and roaring king beast, of viper and flying seraph, they convey their wealth on the backs of donkeys, their treasure on camels' humps, to a people of no avail. And that's one of the things. You acquire the things of this world as a means, but you don't, it's not it. There's more to it. And the Negev, of course, was one of those places. It was one of those places that the first writings that you have put into the Bible, those first forms were first written down, as far as they know.
I wasn't I wasn't raised in church, very much. Now, in my young adulthood, I went several times to what's called a holiness church, and I never saw it at that church, but some other local, just a couple other local churches, they would do that snake handling, and there was actually, people getting bit.
Yeah, and faith goes a long way towards effect, but I would rely on that for that. So 27:1 and 43, 13, or was it 14? Are we going to have enough time for that? 14. 43:14. Thus said the Lord, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, for your sake I send to Babylon. I will bring down all her bars, and the Chaldeans shall raise their voice in lamentation. Chaldean was actually a sort of a slur because these people could do all the rituals without the priesthood and all this stuff. And 27:1, in that day the Lord will punish with his great, cruel, mighty sword Leviathan, the elusive serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent. He will slay the dragon of the sea. And